Present day. Present time.
Just one more before we have words with Mr. Keith LeBlanc. It's the sky. Right then, now it's time for that long-awaited interview with Mr. Keith LeBlanc, and we'll be doing so just after these.
100. Bad house music on Kiss. 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 Kiss.
Special guest on tonight's Abstract Dance Show here on Kiss 100 FM. I'm very, very proud to present Mr. Keith LeBlanc. How you doing, Keith?
Fine. How are you, Colin?
I'm very well, thanks. To people who don't know Keith LeBlanc, you're actually one of the member of Tackhead, but the early days you were actually one of the Sugar Hill Gang. Where did you actually start out with the Sugar Hill Gang in the early days?
Well, the Sugar Hill Gang really was three rappers that Sylvia Robinson kind of picked up out of school, and I got involved with hooking. I was in a band with Doug Wimbish and Skip McDonald, and they had worked at Sugar Hill when it was all Platinum Records, and done a few albums there, had a few bad experiences. So we heard Rapper's Delight was out at the time, and Sylvia Robinson had put out an APB, All Points Bulletin, for Skip and Doug, and they really didn't want to have anything to do with the label anymore. And they mentioned, recording studio and money and records. And so, I bugged them into going up there. And the first day we went up there, we ended up recording. And recorded for most of the acts there from about 1979 to around 83, 84.
Yeah. You were actually drumming with Sugar Hill Gang then?
Yeah, it was it was amazing. The president of the company used to, when he had white people in the office, he'd pull me out and introduce me as the drummer for the label, because I was like the only white face in the place, except for, I think, the guy that signed the checks, Joe Robinson's business partner. But yeah.
So where did Sugar Hill Gang end and Tackhead begin? Because there's quite a void there, really, musically. I mean, they're two radically different types of music.
When Planet Rock came out, that kind of killed what we were doing at the label, really, because we were, playing the live instruments behind all these rap acts. And then when Planet Rock came out, that kind of brought in the whole electro thing. So, and I mean, that record was killing in New York and New Jersey. There was nothing we could do except sit there and watch. So, we did a lot of sessions around the city, and things kind of went downhill at Sugar Hill at that point. A lot of people left, and we kind of split up for a while, just trying to. Basically, it was everyone kind of struggling on their own to make a living, really. Mm-hmm. And I struck up on a relationship with Tommy Boy and did No Sellout. I actually did it at Sugar Hill Records, their studio, and they were gonna release it, but it was only because I thought they knew Malcolm X's wife that I was gonna let them release it, and then I found out they didn't. So I had the engineer grabbed the tape out of the studio and went over to Tommy Boy and did it with them. Of course, there was an ensuing court case that followed and everything, but we eventually won, and it was quite an experience.
Okay, let's have a listen to Malcolm X, No Sellout.
Distinguished guests, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, friends and enemies. Malcolm X. No sellout. Malcolm X. No sellout. Malcolm X. No sellout. make a difference what color you are. The only thing power respects is power. They take one little word out of what you say, ignore all the rest, and then begin to magnify it all over the world to make you look like what you actually are.
Much of what I say might sound like it's stirring up trouble, but it's the truth. 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 We don't care who likes this or not, as long as we know it's the truth.
That was Malcolm X, a very, very big club hit on Tommy Boy Records. If you've just tuned, I'm very, very proud to say we have Keith LeBlanc in the studio. Now, how did the Tackhead thing actually develop, and when did it start?
Well, basically about a year after I did No Sellout, I was living in New York at that time, working for Tommy Boy and a few other labels, and they had me in there doing sessions for a lot of different people. And of course, when it was time to get some guitar and bass, who better to call than Doug Wimbish and Skip McDonald? So we ended up doing a lot of the Tommy Boy sessions. And then Adrian Sherwood, I guess he hooked up with Tom Silverman. And Tommy had been aware of some of the stuff he'd been doing and wanted to introduce him to me. And I had never heard of the guy, really. And I was in the studio doing some pretty forgettable group. I don't remember the name of him, but Adrian came in and introduced himself to me, and I kind of said hello and just didn't think about it because I had never heard anything he did. And then about a month later, they had the New Music Seminar, and there's this English guy, following me around the place, talking me to death. And so then, I finally sat down, he played some music, and that's when I really started getting interested in what he was doing, because he had done some things with drums that I had been trying to do at that particular time, which was get chords out of the bass drums. And apparently, No Sellout, that record, I had put some bass in with the bass drum. That was something that he had been trying to do at that particular time. So when we met, we were both trying to do things that the other person had already done. So, he asked me to come over to England and do some experimental records with him. So I came over, and we worked for about a week. And the stuff, it was good, but it lacked a certain element, which I thought was Skip and Doug. So the next trip I made over here, they came with me, and that's really when Tackhead started. At that point, we called it Fats Comet, and I think we did about 3 or 4 12 inches under that name. And while we were doing the Fats Comet stuff, the stuff that we thought wasn't commercial enough to sell anywhere, we just stuck out on Adrian's label and called it Tackhead. And then, Gary Clayle, he used to... When we met him, he was carrying around Mark Stewart's laundry, because we used to do gigs for Mark Stewart, and he was following Mark around Europe, carrying Mark's laundry in a plastic bag. And I think Mark only had like 1 pair of pants or something. But Gary was a really nice guy, and so he was hanging around, and he asked us if he could have some tapes of like the dub stuff we were doing in the studio, most of the stuff we hadn't released. And he started getting gigs playing it at clubs. And next thing we know, he's packing in all kinds of punters. So he really helped to push the Tackhead name forward. But unfortunately, we couldn't let him keep the name, because when he started getting enough of a name himself, what happened was he'd do a gig somewhere, and people would think they'd go to see the band Tackhead, and they'd show up, and there'd be Gary with a bag full of cassettes, So, and then vice versa, some people might want to go see Gary do a disco, and they'd show up, and the band would be there. So he changed the name to the On You Sound Disco, and we kept the name Tackhead, and that's basically how it started.
Going back to the early Fats Comic sound, we're now going to have a listen to Rochester. Living in London, was that a move to be nearer the London scene, or was it because you weren't happy with the way things were going back home in the US?
I moved here because I got married. I mean, that's the that's the honest to God truth. To me, I've never been really into a scene of music. I've been fortunate in the fact that I could do what I like to do, and I could sell a certain amount of records, so there was a certain demand for it. So I can make a living doing it. But
so you mean you stay away from trends?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really latch onto a trend. I mean, I listen to trends, and I'm sure they influence me like everyone else. But as far as a whole scene goes, I know there is a whole scene in London, but it changes so fast. And so, whenever I step in to have a look at the scene, it's different. And I know there's a scene in New York too, but I never really latched onto that. So as long as there's a recording studio and some tape, it really doesn't matter where I am. I could be anywhere and still make the music. So my wife lived here, so it was easier for me to move here. And I'm not from the city, originally, and I lived in New York for 10 years, and I was really fed up with just the life in the big city. And I know London is a city, but it doesn't strike me as a city. It's more suburbia to me. So
how would you compare the two scenes? I mean, you've seen the scene in the US and you've seen the scene in the UK. How would you compare the two?
The scene in the UK is a little more grassroots to me. It's still a little more the land of opportunity for someone just coming up. Because if you do have a good idea and you do have a good record, you will get someone to listen to it here a lot faster than you would in New York. In the city, a lot of times you need an introduction or you need someone that knows somebody to say something. And, I had a kid come to my door the other day with a tape, and I never had that happen to me in New York, so.
You're currently working with quite a few UK artists. I mean, Tim Simenon, for example. How did you come to work with Tim of Bomb the Bass?
Well, basically, I kept bumping into Tim in MaJeSTiK studio. And, we're both kind of workaholics, so, I'd be in there working on something. I said, come on in and listen to this, and he'd have me come in and listen to some of his stuff. So I wanted to have Tim get involved with some gigs I was doing. They were called a Night of Interference. And the general idea was to kind of have a circus of musicians on stage. And the first gigs, basically, Tim came and did a Bomb the Bass set. And I did a set by myself, and then we did a small Tackhead set and a few other things. And what eventually happened was we turned that into a band called Interference, and we just did a tour this October of Europe as that, and that was with Kenji Jama, Tim Simenon. He's just playing pure samples off of pads. Doug Wimbish, myself, and also we had DJ Spike, made a few appearances on stage in his helmet, and the rapper a la Mode, he's from the Bronx. And then we did a London show where we added a few more musicians, Jeff Scantleberry from Curiosity Killed a Cat, and Inda Maduru, he's from Nation Records, played tablas, and Gota, who I guess he's working with Simply Red now, and before that,
it's quite a mixed bag, though.
I guess you could say he did most of the Soul to Soul backing tracks. And then Bernard Fowler showed up, sang a few tunes, and we had Rodney C from Funky 4+1 showed up and rapped some, and Kat, which is Tim's girlfriend, she showed up and did a song, and at the end of the night, Ron Wood showed up and was playing bass. I turned around and there's
amazing.
There's Ron Wood playing bass. I said, holy cow,
You're like,
oh no, our credibility is gone. No. No, but it was a fun night. The band was killing the night, and we had a good sound system. So basically, to answer your question, I mean, I just kept bumping into Tim in the studio, and liked what I heard, what he was doing in the studio. I liked the stuff he was doing, so it's probably one of the few DJs that, hasn't been strictly, oh, come on and scratch on this record, I've hooked up with.
All right, we're now going to have a listen to a track that both you and Tim Simenon worked on together. Here's a cut called Switching Channels from the album Unknown Territory, Bomb the Bass.
Ease yourself back into consciousness. Ease yourself back into consciousness. Ease yourself back into consciousness. You've got an unscrambled scramble. Ease yourself back into consciousness. You've got an unscrambled scramble. Automatically change the code on this. Automatically change the code on this. Ease yourself back into
very good evening. If you've just tuned, this is Kiss 100 FM with me, Colin Dale, on the Abstract Dance Show. My special guest tonight, Keith LeBlanc. Now, Keith, Tackhead has a reputation for hard and very, very uncompromising music. How would you describe the Tackhead sound yourself?
We always were really looking for a really hard groove and a bit of comedy and irony in the music, and I think that's probably the best way to describe it. And we wanted to do something that didn't sound like anybody else, and that was our main concern. We don't want to sound like anybody else, and so we just didn't pay any attention to what was going on at the time, and just hoped that everybody's influences individually would come out in the music, and we'd come up with a definite sound. And I think we did strike up on a good idea. I think we were probably some of the first to use a lot of sampling, and we did that. And now, a lot of the music industry is based on that. But I think when we were doing it, the equipment wasn't really available to just everyone like it is now. So we had an opportunity to do some things first.
You've got quite a few members in the Tackhead group. Don't you have squabbles with ideas? Don't you ever clash?
Well, in the beginning, there was never really any squabbles about tunes. I think the only time we ever had any arguments about songs, or really lobbied hard for a song, was when we got signed to a major label. Because all of a sudden we had a budget to do anything we wanted. I think we cut about 3 albums worth of material. And, it was... the first records, we basically didn't have any budget to do them on. So we would literally go in the studio and slam them out, slam an album out in a week, a 12-inch in a night, that type of thing. So there wasn't any time to squabble about what we did. It was just, let's go with it. And so most of the time, I don't think we had that equation to deal with, really.
How'd you actually make your tracks? How'd you sit down and work? Would you suddenly come upon an idea, or would you sit down and work from the drums, or the beat, or whatever?
A lot of we worked a lot of different ways. Whichever the way the tune came about, really. Sometimes I would have just a track, and we'd make something out of that, or we might have an idea. Like Adrian might come up with a vocal sample. I know in the case of Stormy Weather, which was one of the first 12 inches we did under the name Fats Comet, Adrian kept bugging us about, let's do a version of Stormy Weather. And, we all thought he was out of his head, but basically he was good for bringing in a lot of influences that didn't belong together. Basically we were a lot of people that probably didn't belong together in the same room, but we had a lot of different influences, and we just kind of crashed them in on the studio and see what we came up with. Probably the easiest way to describe the way we worked was we knew what we didn't want. And we kind of threw things at tape, and what stuck, that's what stayed. But there was a lot of times, people would hit the erase button when they didn't like something.
What's the reason for Blanc Records?
Oh, well, it's kind of a continuation of World Records, I guess. My friend Adrian Sherwood, he kept telling me, you ought to start a label, Keith. You ought to start a label, And so then one day I said, well, maybe I ought to, So he gave me the idea to do it, and he kind of helped me along, getting it going. And now it's just a real good outlet. I always wanted to have an outlet to just put out whatever I wanted to put out, where I didn't have anything to live up to, and I didn't have to have a certain amount of sales except to make enough money to do another one. And so that's basically the reason for starting it, was to have an outlet for music that probably no record label would want to have anything to do with, and that I personally liked.
Now you've got an outlet with Blanc Records. Would you say that there was enough airtime given to music such as yours, and music of that type?
Probably not, but it's getting better, and I think there's a lot of music that's skipped over by radio because their radio's getting certain pressure from certain big corporations to play certain things. Let's face it, it keeps them in business, and I think a lot of the more obscure stuff does suffer because of that. But then when it does get played, there usually is a lot of interest because you don't hear something like that every day. So it doesn't fit into the usual format.
We're now going to play something from the first album release on Blanc Records. Here's a cut called Bye Bye.
Baby, baby, where did our love go? You don't want me, you don't want me no more. You came into my life so tenderly, with a burning love that sting like bee. Know that I surrender so hopelessly. You don't wanna leave, you wanna leave me. You wanna be loved, and sure I give you love. You wanna be held, and I sure give you up. You wanna be paid, I make sure I make you paid. Baby, baby.
Kiss FM. Kiss FM.
Now that I surrender, hopelessly, you now wanna leave, you wanna leave me. Baby, baby, please don't leave. Don't leave me all by myself. Baby, baby, please don't leave me all by myself.
That was Bye Bye from the album Tasteless Cuts. Now, Keith, you've been involved in quite a few productions and remixes over the past few years. Which do you prefer, doing remixes or your own productions?
You wanna leave me?
Well, with remixes, it depends on the artist. If they give me a free hand, it's a lot of fun. But if
do they usually give you a free hand? Do they usually give you the tapes and say, go and do what you want to do?
Yeah, I mean, usually when they call me to do something, I've gotten kind of a reputation to be kind of a wacky sound person. I don't know why. But usually when they call me to do something, they ask me to make it pretty extreme as far as taking it out of the normal thing. They're always looking for something alternative to what they already have. Mm-hmm. So, and then sometimes friends will ask me to do things, and that'll be a little bit more pressure on me. Mm-hmm. I won't be as loose with those things because they're friends that have definite opinions about things, and I know, the way they want it to sound.
Are you aware of the current rave fever which has currently gripped the UK? Are you aware of things like Detroit techno and European house Do you listen to things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think dance music in general is probably the last holdout for experimentation in the music industry. I mean, jazz is always been an experimental music, but in the last 10 years, it seems like that's become very formalized. And, there's a formula for that a lot of people use, or they do traditional type stuff that's been done years before. And I think the dance music scene or the rave music scene leaves an opening for a lot of really good experimentation. People are, they might have a squeak in a beat, and that's the record, and that's really good. And I think the rave scene has been, it's been going on here for quite a while now. I think I was just in Germany. It's just started over there. And of course the Germans love it, and in the States, it's getting over in California. So I think I would say that started here in England. That was the first I heard of it. And the music is constantly just getting more and more experimental.
Your last record, Tackhead release, Videohead, I thought myself was probably the most commercial thing you've done. Is Tackhead moving in that direction? Are you moving more towards the dance floor?
Well, we wanted to do something with a DJ, and from a DJ point of view, basically. And so that's how that record came about, and that was done very quickly. And the current the subject matter it deals with virtual reality, but I think having a DJ involved gave it a bit more commercial edge that it probably ordinarily wouldn't have had. And that was just another angle. I mean, the Tackhead is always, every record we've done has been different. We've always tried to not repeat ourselves. So.
Do you think you'd be moving more into that direction though in the future?
I don't know. I mean, we'll put together a set of circumstances and try and come up with the best result. And we never really had any direction to move in. I mean, probably the most direction we had was misdirection, which is when we did a major label deal, and the label was picking songs, and that was probably the most direction we ever had, and it was it was ridiculous because they didn't pick anything that we wanted on the record, and so as a result we lost total control of our own little baby in a way. So I guess that release is kind of a way to let people know that we've got control of it ourselves. And
all right, we're now going to have a listen to Videohead.
in the video. Knock out my face in the video. Change your surroundings. Change your mind. Change your gender. And all with the push of a button.
Keith, where do you see Tackhead heading for in the future? Maybe a year's time or 2 years' time? Where do you want to go?
That's a good question. Wembley. No. Really, in the next couple years, you never can tell. I mean, we've kind of everyone's kind of taken a break from Tackhead after we got dropped from a major label. It really kind of took the wind out of us in a way, because we had such a roll going, and then an album came out and it wasn't really promoted, and we weren't really satisfied with it. It was kind of out of our control, and they had us doing these pretty horrible videos. I hope not too many people saw them, but they weren't really what Tackhead was about. So I think it'll probably be a very experimental nature, whatever comes out next, because that's the kind of head everyone's in. I mean, no one really wants to do anything that we've done before, so it's got to be different. So you could hear just about anything from us, but it'd definitely be funky, I can tell you that much.
We look forward to it with bated breath. Keith, it's been a pleasure talking to you. I hope you'll come back soon.
Pleasure talking to you, Colin.
Cheers, Keith.